Welcome to Unmuzzled Chat. I'm James. Happy Monday to everyone. Oh my goodness. This has already been such a humbling experience as I replay those previous episodes. Even to myself, it's just like, oh my gosh, spit it out, dude. And then how I get caught up in these tangents and I don't bring it back. I can't even effectively finish a story or this or that. I'm so sorry. Like, bear with me. Hopefully, today's episode will bring some clarity to you as to the actual battles I've been facing and with this disease I'm faced with. And so, today's topic essentially is going to be Lyme disease. And I'm really excited to dive on in. Love your thoughts on this second flag we have hanging up here, if it's too much. But shout out to Scott. He may have just involuntarily/voluntarily donated this to Unmuzzled. We'll see. But he made a point like, hey, this could clean things up, but it is also hiding our door. Now, I don't know if you know or have figured it out, but this is a mobile studio. This is / my hunting rig, camping rig, to get out with / home at times. Yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. If it's getting too busy or anyway. So let's dive on in. I hope I can effectively walk through my experience, but also some more information on just not Lyme, but symptoms, some of the testing that's out there, doctors, clinics, treatments, and also some information sources that, you could look into, because Western medicine, in fact, would have you believe that Lyme isn't even that big of a deal, that it's really easy to treat. And through some basic antibiotic drugs, can knock it right out. And that's not necessarily true. It's true to an extent. Supposedly, those that have it fresh within their body, like just were bitten, just got Lyme in their body, so it's going around the bloodstream, antibiotics are effective and they can knock it right out. However, once it effectively goes past the bloodstream and starts getting into tissues, antibiotics don't touch that. So that could be 2-3 weeks or a month or two down the line where you may have a potentially positive reaction to antibiotics, but it's not eradicating it from your system. Because the spirochete there's no limitations, it seems, on where this stuff can go, like throughout your body. It can burrow itself into tissues, past the blood-brain barrier, even burrow itself into ligament tissue and even bone marrow. So yeah, your basic antibiotic isn't going to do diddly. But anywho, you asked me about Lyme over 3 years ago. I would have been like, pretty typical response. Didn't that come from ticks? That's about all I really knew. I didn't know much more than that. I think I knew it could have impacts and it was hard to eradicate, that some people actually, once they have it, they kind of fight it for life. And that's about all I knew. That in and of itself becomes extremely concerning to me now. Knowing what I know now is like, why is it I didn't know more until I personally was afflicted? Why is it so many don't know much of anything regarding Lyme until someone they dearly love is afflicted? That's a problem. And I believe there to be some reasons that make a lot of sense as we go into the topic as to why that is. Now, as I looked into Lyme and learned more and more once I had my positive diagnosis going on 3 years now, which completely uprooted my life and changed the very trajectory I was on, to pretty much a full-time job. I really didn't have a choice though, because it actually became chronic and completely encompassing and debilitating. I was not functional. I couldn't function. I was pretty much bedridden. And it's interesting. Some weeks, some days, some months were better than others. But man, the ones that got bad. And it became not just a day by day or hour by hour. It was a moment by moment, second by second, white knuckling, just miserable existence. There was literally no quality of life. And I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy or none of you. Oh my goodness. So to me, and walking in those shoes and experiencing that, it's like, well, hit the microphone. Why don't you, James? But it became, yeah, like, so, tripping up on words here. Important. It became incredibly important. Like, that we raise the awareness on how bad this can be. And as I've also learned more about it, another question that became important to me is upping the how common is it? If this can actually kill and become life-threatening in and of itself, how common is it? And it's way more common, and we'll go over that information, than we're all aware of. So true epidemic levels, even straight from the mouths of many doctors and people that are in the know. And I would 100% say epidemic levels personally from what I know. Far more, not just Americans, but people worldwide, in fact, are struggling with Lyme and don't even know about it. So come to find out, as I learned more, my whole life started making sense. Because I grew up on the East Coast, and it almost was a ritual as kids. Like in our Pennsylvania, we had some acres, and we would just be running around in the forest. It became a ritual where we would be coming home like picking ticks off of each other. It was just another day, not thinking anything about it. So some of these doctors, upon my diagnosing, are like, have you ever had a tick on you? And I'm just like, as a kid, when didn't I? I had ticks all the time. So that is kind of what led these Lyme literate doctors is to recommending, finally, for the first time in my life, looking into Lyme disease and getting some diagnosing there. So let's jump to the actual testing, the original testing, because Western medicine has their own that I have actually done even after my Lyme positive diagnosis that came back negative because their markers are intentionally, seemingly, they're just not effective testing for properly diagnosing Lyme. It's incredible. But specifically, so there are all these specialty labs, and even these the markers can be tricky to really hone in on the Lyme within the body, because the Lyme itself, it's not the only thing. Lyme is never by itself. It's not just the spiral key. There's a whole slew of co-infections that come along with it. So it's a whole package deal. But anyway, the IGeneX has specialty Lyme testing in the tune of, and of course, insurance, Western medicine, what have you, it doesn't go towards this. So this is out of pocket. In this specific test, I believe I was around $1,400 out of pocket just to see. I was like, all right, but I was kind of knocking on death's door there, where something had to give. Like, truly, I couldn't continue. Something had to give. I don't know why this camera wasn't flickering a minute ago, and here it is flickering. Let me try to see if I can. Maybe that'll help. I'm so sorry. We're gonna up things here at the studio, better and better at some point. But yeah, there's kind of a budget and obviously importance just getting this content out. That we're not gonna let 4K video or what have you stop us from producing at this moment. But anyway, so it's interesting. Out of 6 siblings, as I learned more about Lyme and the symptoms, it's like it became clear as I reflected back and understood more of the symptoms. Oh my gosh, this is something I've been struggling with since I was a kid. We left the East Coast before I turned 7, moved out west. And ever since I could remember as a kid, like I had I seemingly struggled with quite a few different things that none of my other siblings necessarily dealt with. And one of which was just getting out of bed in the morning. And I remember many times, final warning, if I have to come in here one more time, more so than anyone else. And it was so easily misdiagnosed or just brushed over like I'm the issue, where I'm just lazy or come on and kick on your boots, and that it just wasn't diagnosed. So we got to understand things too, obviously, because it'd be more beneficial to catch these type of things earlier on. And through awareness, I believe we could get it to where insurance covers these things, and it's more Western medicine can effectively jump on board, and we can up our testing and everything. So anyway, all that is going to happen solely through awareness. Just kind of like cancer 20, 30 years ago. I like paralleling these two because cancer 20, 30 years ago, in fact, wasn't covered by insurance, wasn't taught in our institutions. It was more so a conspiratorial like disease that the naturopathic weirdos were talking about this. And now look at it. Like cancer's running rampant, and we have all sorts of centers, all sorts of different treatments. Insurance is on board. It's part of our education system. It's just all over, and that's epidemic levels as well. But anyway, so a lot of things made sense. I was the only out of my 6 siblings that had almost like learning disabilities, to where I had special ed and earlier classes and things like that. I would need like tutoring and just nose in the books and study, and I was having a really hard time even getting passing grades, where seemingly all my other siblings, some of which were easy 4.0s, and just breezing through school with flying colors. It was quite a difference between me and them, and so much of this makes sense. Well, it's interesting. The way I understand it now is my God-given immune system was stellar, especially as a kid. So even though I had Lyme, my immune system was effectively fighting it off. So sure, with the co-infections, there were some symptoms that still kind of came through and had an impact to an extent, but it was never chronic because my immune system was effectively fighting it off. But as you imagine, something that's never naturally just going to go away in your system, illness such as Lyme, you could do things to minimize, obviously, it getting any worse, and supporting your immune system to potentially get it to a suppressive state to where it's not necessarily having a negative impact, if you will. But life happens. You get sick, you bonk your head, you eat something toxic, and you have stressful situations. And as life happened, and I bonk my head and, have really challenging relationships, because emotional state here is actually very important too. And as I reflect back, all these emotional, challenges I ended up with, I could see how additionally debilitating this disease became, as though that challenge wasn't bad enough or hard enough in and of itself, that there's another thing. Because once your emotional state goes up and you're stressed and anxiety, your system kind of goes fight or flight, where your immune system basically stops working. So Lyme ends up going kind of rampant and just having a heyday and wreaking havoc throughout your whole body. And it produces all these co-infection toxins that amplify all those symptoms. So, oh, girl breaks my heart. Like all of a sudden, I'm feeling like hungover, lethargic, like no more happiness inside of me, because this directly impacts dopamine and serotonin production throughout your body, especially when it passes the blood-brain barrier. So, like the life challenge becomes challenging in and of itself, but as that lowers and Lyme goes rampant. So anyway, inevitably, it's as if the Lyme creeps up to where it finally gets to a point it is winning and is now chronic. And that seems to be the case for me. And it was, I want to say, even a little over 3 years ago that it actually became chronic. But being health conscious and taking these other roads kind of fought it off. But anyway, I'm just grateful. I'm grateful to have my diagnosis. I'm grateful, as bittersweet as it was, it gave a clear path forward, clear-ish path forward to, in fact, start some protocols and, just have hope. But treatments, man, we need to bring awareness to up the quality of treatments, because it's known in the Lyme community that what helps one individual doesn't necessarily do anything for the next. I mean, it can, but we're talking about a different body, a different system that's going to react different, slash, I guess the co-infections are different too. And I've been told now 7, then 9, and then more than 9 co-infections, a lot more than 9, maybe 14. I'm hearing all these things from all these different doctors. It's like, holy moly. So it's just going to impact everyone a little different, the disease itself, and also that road to recovery, unfortunately, is going to be a little different and specialized and what have you. But nothing to really fret. I mean, it's just life. It's another challenge we got. It is what it is. And guys, please understand, I'm not here to play my violin. I'm here to bring awareness to something, because the truth of the matter is everyone's got their challenges. You got your challenges. And I feel like it would be hypocritical. It would be downright wrong, even evil, to make it a competition. It's not a competition. Mine don't trump your challenges. I'm just saying they're my challenge. They're my challenges, and I accept them at this point. And I'm excited to help. If this type of awareness can have a positive impact to where people can rebound faster with where they're at, fan freaking tastic. That's essentially what I'm going for here today. Hopefully that had the impact I intended it to have. But anyway, so it's just interesting. What a scary thing that I seemingly could have this, not even in a dormant stage, which I guess with some people can be entirely dormant, where they really aren't dealing with any real negative effects, but and can almost live out their whole lives without ever knowing. I guess that's kind of a blessing, but more than likely it's having a negative impact or two. So it's sad if someone never knew, and what What would have their life looked like if it was properly diagnosed 20, 30 years earlier? Where would they be at? Like it's just important um to brush up on all this stuff. And there's nothing conspiratorial about this. You can actually find the spiral key. So let's dive into Lyme. As I understand it, it's an actual spiral key. It's really small. I mean, something's got to be pretty freaking small, as I understand it, to even pass the blood-brain barrier. And it literally, if you looked up images of this actual tissue base, it's a real, like, almost a corkscrew looking, just almost look parasite looking thing. I guess the Lyme itself doesn't necessarily create or wreak havoc on the body. It's all the co-infections it produces and has. And there's two different, like, I guess, stages or phases this spiral key could be at within your body. And it's either the active state, where it's essentially, yeah, actively releasing these co-infections throughout your body, which are creating the negative symptoms, or it could be in it could be in hibernation state, where it actually creates like a biofilm, like a cyst-like form around it, protecting itself. Meaning, like, if you just stop, cut out all sugars and start feeding good nutrients and supplements, maybe even a antibiotic that is threatening it, it literally knows and goes in a hibernation state, which is scary because, man, if it protects itself as you're waging war on it, trying to eradicate, like, it just went dormant. And so many people, like, with prior treatments I've even had, I can testify to this, like, making sense to me, because during certain treatments, I felt improvement. Almost so much so I was like, wow, I think I'm good. I think I'm getting back. As soon as the treatments are over, like, symptoms start coming back. In fact, it gets to a point I was even worse off than I was going into it, because once they're no longer threatened, it's like they become active again and breed and spread like wildfire, and all of a sudden you're worse off than you were before. If that makes any sense, I mean, that's to envision a little nanoparticle spiral key, like, embedding itself all throughout the body. I mean, you think about that type of threat versus, like, your typical bacteria, your cold or your flu, or even a parasite itself. It seems like it has limitations on where it can dwell within your body. The sinus seems to be through your respiratory, where it can live in your nasal and in your throat and in your lungs. But that's it. Like, your cold doesn't go beyond that. Your flu seems a little more resilient, where that bacteria can thrive and, like, upset your stomach and digestive, and also, give you the runny nose and earaches and all that fever. So that seems more resilient than your basic cold. Parasites as well, but they're limited to where they can dwell. The spiral key in Lyme pretty much has unlimited access throughout your whole body, and that's a pretty scary fact to wrap your mind around. So, since my diagnosis 3 years ago, I've been to, we'll just say, like, 6 doctors, 7, I think, 6 or 7 different protocols now. All of them seem to have, like, pros and cons. All of them had a supplement-based regimen, a diet-based regimen, an exercise to an extent, some tinctures, like holistic. Some of them, I mean, the treatments span the whole spectrum, as I've looked into out there, where some of them are, energy based, because I guess we're kind of energy beings as well. Like our body, almost like a battery. We got a negative, positive, and anyway, I guess that can get out of whack. And there's ways of setting that right. And I've done some of that kind of work, hyperphysics, and it's interesting because I felt. Here's another fun fact with Lyme. I never heard of the term herxing. Herxing, I guess, is a term that is used with other illnesses, where as you're positively treating your illness and it's moving the needle in the right direction, it actually gets worse before it gets better. So this term is a Herx reaction to your treatments is supposedly a good indicator. It's not a fun one to have because it shows, hey, things are working. And I realized firsthand with some of these treatments, like what herxing was. And, you take these droplets, but start slow at this low amount, 1 or 2 once a day. And I started moving up to 6 twice a day. And next thing you know, I couldn't, like, what a roller coaster. I remember laying in bed, just like, I really have to use the restroom, like really bad. And I'd just be sitting there, well, dang it, I need to use the restroom. And I just sit there and I think about it. Hour goes by. I'm still thinking about it. The whole afternoon goes by. And I just have a realization, wow, I still haven't used it. What am I? You're literally you're just existing. I don't know how to explain it. You're just existing. It's crazy. And eventually you got to go and you get up and you're just like, wow, what just happened? And you don't even really realize it's like after, and it takes weeks to get out of that state. And you reflect back like, I don't even remember these last 3 weeks. It's crazy. The impacts. Let's jump into some of the symptoms. And in the chronic stage, came a point, these symptoms were all simultaneously happening at the same time. Some of these symptoms were just coming on and off all throughout since I was a kid. It blows my mind that I went over 30 years being misdiagnosed, thinking, arthritis, or, it's just you, or, you just got a crummy immune system, or you're just mentally whatever and a depressed individual. It was just made out to be me. No one really acknowledging or being able to identify that there was a underlining issue that was causing all these other things. So it's so important to bring awareness. But anyway, there's a lot of so things I dealt with, Lyme specific, and this seems to be pretty general, where I had a lot of pain throughout the body, stiffness. It just, especially like lower back, my neck, my rib cage, my whole torso as I like turn back and forth, tension in my legs. And this is a very inflammatory illness where you get inflammation throughout the body. One Lyme individual that dealt with Lyme explained it like the very fascia that runs under the skin throughout the whole body. It's like the fascia itself is inflamed and tense and sensitive, and that resonated with me. Skin blemishes, because as it produces all these co-infections and toxins throughout your body, okay, no wonder your largest organ is a 39-year-old man. It looks like I'm in high school. I get flushed. I even look flushed right now. But, I just dealt with pimples and zits and things of that nature. Sorry, don't mean to gross anyone out, but you deal with that like supposedly a normal person just in their puberty phase in life. But as an adult to deal with that and be conscious, like it no one wants to deal with that. Excuse me. But yeah, it's not just the face. Like that's actually been an issue. And at one point I dealt with boils where my face was swollen, my jawline was swollen. I, have even some scars on my chest, shoulders, like the skin. It's been a challenge. I ended up with bumps and boils at one point on my arms. And yeah, just crazy. So, other than skin, like digestive issues, talk about, let's get a little more graphic, but hey, bear with me here. These are just some of the symptoms, but it's like I, at times, ended up a toxic gas factory. Like, I don't even know how other, like, to explain it. Like, I remember just being in awe at times, like, where is this gas even coming from? I don't even know. I wish I had Dr. Berg's digestive enzyme back then, because that seems to help balance things out a bit. But my goodness, yeah, the gas can just be challenging. Let's say headaches. End up dealing with all sorts of no rhyme, no reason with all these things. Mind you, one afternoon might be good, and that evening might be a problem, or vice versa. One day versus the next day, 1 week versus the next week. It just no rhyme or reason. But headaches, and they would be debilitating, like full blown migraines, brain fog. So now this is tying in, not to totally excuse my challenges on communication, but holy moly, brain fog obviously has a problem, like has its own challenge, like, okay, processing your own thoughts and cognitive and gears going and what have you. But there came a point where speech became such an issue for me where, like, I could barely put the thoughts together in my head. It was a whole next level putting my thoughts to words with my mouth. Um, that tied into being lethargic. A lot of the bees, like Babesia, Borrelia, Bartonella, I guess, are also the same thing, or uh, tied to mono. So lethargic, like mono-esque symptoms, where you're just tired, always tired. I mean, there were times I could sleep pretty much 24 hours a day. There were days I was just in and out of consciousness. I happened to turn on the television in the morning, upon waking up, and just, oh man, I can't get out of bed. I turn on, I wouldn't even play a show. I intended to, but I'd be in and out of conscious all day, and it would just be, there wouldn't be even a show playing. That's how dysfunctional, lethargic, like how tired, just non-functional. It's crazy. Um I don't fancy myself a lazy person. Are you kidding me? I attribute above all, God keeping me here. But secondly,